slide this, or should I leave? Okay, thank you. Ooh, sorry. Great, my first time up here, I've already broken something. If you guys are comfortable, do this with me. Close your eyes. Take a real deep breath in and let it out twice as slowly. That helped me. Thank you. Open your eyes. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is the first time I've been in this room in 2 years.
Amen.
And it brings tears to my eyes. All these faces waving and smiling and wanting to hug. I'm going off script. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Silver Spring. You all know me as, at least most of you know me as the hugger-in-chief, thanks to Jeremy Holt. Now I'm just a fist bumper-in-chief. My name is Brian Hopkins, and my pronouns are he, his, and him. I am today's worship associate. Reason is an important part of our liberal faith, but alone it's not enough. This morning's service is about the many building blocks for the strong liberal faith. Unfortunately, we are not able to secure a sign language interpreter for this week, but bear with us, we'll have one back real soon, I promise. It is so good to see all the children and the youth and the young at heart in this room. Yes, yes, yes. Religious education, or RE as we call it, is held in person here at the church on the first and third Sunday of the month and virtually on Zoom on the second and fourth. So kids in RE classes will stay in the sanctuary through joys and sorrows, after which they and their teachers will be invited to go to class. Children of all ages are always welcome to stay for the entire service. If you are joining us on Zoom, up there and all around, hi everybody. Now it's a time to grab a candle and something to light it with. That way you can join us as you light your own chalice and as we light our chalice in the sanctuary in a few minutes. But first, let's take a moment to thank everyone who has made this service possible. Please join me in the words on the screen as we light our chalice and reaffirm our congregational commitment. May this light warm our hearts with love and caring and guide us in the ways of truth. As we gather here for worship, we pledge ourselves to the endless search for truth, to the right of each to believe, as mind, heart, and conscience dictate, to accept the responsibility this freedom commands, and to implement our belief in the essential worth and dignity of every human being.
May it be
so.
Good morning, everyone. Lao Tzu wrote that existence is beyond the power of words to define. Terms may be used, but none of them are absolute. In the beginning of heaven and earth, there were no words. Words came out of the womb of matter. If name be needed, wonder names them both. From wonder into wonder, existence opens. In that spirit, come, let us worship together. Now let's rise and body in spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, 347, Gather the Spirit. The words will be on the screen.
Gather the Spirit, harvest the power of separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in strength, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid in store. Nurtured in love and conscience refined. With body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in awe, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
Good morning, everyone. Oh my goodness. I am so happy to be here with all of you this morning. I would love to invite the kids to come up front with me. I'm going to need some help. Awesome. Thanks for coming up. Oh my gosh, there are so many of you. This makes me so happy. Everybody have a seat for just a moment. Perfect. So in this church, we put lots of different things together to form our faith, kind of like building blocks. Tradition, or the songs we sing and the holidays we celebrate and the history of other people who called themselves Unitarians and Universalists, are some of the building blocks of our faith. Other building blocks are things like sacred books or wisdom from other religions and our own personal experience. Today, we're talking about a building block that is called reason. Does anybody know what reason is? Yeah, what do you think? It's like why you do something. Excellent. Was there another idea over here? What's reason, Charlotte?
Reason means what is the reason about something that happened or not.
There's a reason why something happened. Excellent. So we use reason when we try to put puzzles together, or when we try to solve problems, or when we ask questions like, how does a clock work? And reason is also really important in our faith. But it's just one of our building blocks, and it won't get us very far all on its own. So today we're going to do an experiment for our Time for All Ages. We're going to use some reason, and then I'm going to tell you a short story. The story I'm going to use is about some monks on a windy day who see some flags. So first, I need some folks who might be willing to hold some flags for me up here. Miss Dominique is going to give you some flags to hold, and you can stand up if you have the flags in your hands. Perfect. And maybe we make a line. We want to do it flat that way. Perfect. You're going to come over this way. Amazing. We got that. Perfect. And now some of you have a piece of paper. If you have a piece of paper, please stand up. Perfect. We got two more friends with a piece of paper. And why don't you come up and help hold our other side of the flag over here. Perfect. Everybody, you come on over here. You're going to go hold the flag with amethyst. Perfect. All right, everybody with a flag or with a piece of paper, step down this way just a little bit. You got it. And we're going to make some wind. What do you think is going to happen when we make wind with our paper? What's going to happen? The flags will move. What do you think? Do you guys think that's what's going to happen? The flags will move? All right, well, let's try our experiment out. 1, 2, 3, make us some wind. We might need to come a little closer to the flags for our experiment to work. There we go. All right, I see some flags moving down here. We've got some wind really trying to move the flags over here. Excellent. Really nice. Okay. That one isn't moving. Oh, you're holding that one still. Okay, perfect. Now everybody have a seat again. So what did you see? You guys can sit down too. What did you guys see with the flags? Did the wind move the flags? Yeah, Charlotte?
It made lots of air. And when they flapped it, like go up and down, the more air they were, and the faster it is, the more air they were.
Oh my gosh, we just used so much reason. That was beautiful. The faster they moved the wind-making machine, the more air there was. That's beautiful. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. Once, there were two monks who were walking down the road, and it was a breezy day. And one of them said to the other, "Look, the flag is flapping in the breeze." And the other monk said, "No, you're wrong. That's foolish. The breeze is flapping the flag." Then they argued with each other back and forth. The flag is flapping. No, the breeze is flapping the flag. So let's think for a minute about what we saw. Did we see the breeze flapping the flag? What do you think? You think yes? Okay. Was the flag flapping in the breeze? Yeah, we think that was happening too. Okay, are there any other options of what might be happening? The same thing? Could be the same thing, I don't know. Well, in our story, the Zen master appeared on the road, and they ran up to him and said, "Help us settle our fight. I say the flag is flapping in the breeze, and he says the breeze is flapping the flag. Which one is true?" And the master said, "You're both wrong. Your minds are flapping." What do you think he meant by this? Your minds are flapping. Anybody have any ideas? Any of our grown-ups have any ideas of what he meant? No? They were arguing over nothing. Well, sometimes we need reason to help us figure important things out and to solve problems. But sometimes trying to reason our way through things is just flapping our minds. You guys can all go back to your seats. Thank you so much for your help. Thank you.
So we worship together as a community for many reasons. Worship is for giving thanks, for exploring truths, for feeling awe and finding ways to forgive. And it's also a time when this congregation rejoices and mourns together and for one another and for our world. We now begin Joys and Sorrows, a time for deep listening and deep sharing. After each person has shared, we will say together, "I'll begin with the words 'in every joy and sorrow,' and I invite the congregation to respond. We are held in love beyond belief." So I now invite any with joys or sorrows that they would like to share to come forward now. And I'll invite you to speak into the microphone, which I'll put back into the stand. And Brian can help you light a candle if you'd like to do that.
Hello, everybody. I'm Catherine Buckler, and I have a joy to share, which is that my niece, Rosalie Geiger, is moving to DC from Woodstock, Vermont. So we're really happy to have her here. Yay.
In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief.
I have a joy that this morning I lost my second tooth.
In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief.
My joy is that yesterday I went to Dunkin' Donuts and got 4 donuts just for me.
That is quite a day. In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief. Stand.
Hello, my joy is that for our spring play at my school, we're doing The Importance of Being Earnest, and I'm playing Lane, and I'm also the unofficial, I'm the official dramaturge. So basically, if people have trouble pronouncing words or they don't know what something means, I give background information for everything, and I do research, yeah.
In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief.
Hi, I'm Sydney Sackett. I have a joy that I'm on track to graduate this May with my bachelor's degree.
In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief.
Actually, can I say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you all know who I am, and I hope I don't drip wax on the carpet. My dad played harmonica here for you guys a couple years ago. He passed away. right before COVID, just before they shut everything down. And he died in my arms at the nursing home. And my nephew was playing guitar, and it could not have been more cathartic, could not have been more beautiful. We are truly blessed. He smiled every second of the day. He's smiling right now, looking down on all of you and telling you all how great you guys are, because that's the kind of guy he was. He died 99 in 11 months. And dagnabbit, Dad. So, yeah.
In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief. Breath of life, spirit of love. We have come together in this community with gratitude for all of the joy and gifts and blessings we have received. We give thanks for the joys shared today and for all of life's gifts. And yet many of us feel afraid and sad, worried, or confused. May all who have shared sorrows aloud and those with sorrows too deep for words feel held in the love of this congregation and the love that never lets any of us go. Whether rejoicing or grieving, giving or receiving, leading or following, we never do any of it perfectly. None of us is our best selves all the time. We all fall short of our ideals every now and then. Thankfully, we're not called to be perfect. We are called to be faithful, faithful to our values, faithful to our covenants, forgiving ourselves and others when we miss the mark, and beginning again in forgiveness and love over and over. That's what our faith is. Whether we are seekers or finders, believers or doubters, leaders or followers, we are all ministers in our own ways, all partners with one another in answering life's great call to build a world of justice, equity, beauty, where all have enough. May our time together here and now bless every one of us as we live out this call. May it be so. Amen.
So, shall we turn our gray hymnal books to 391, but we also have the option of reading the lyrics up on there. So it might be easier for some that way, others to have the option for reading the music if you need to. So we'll hear a short introduction. We'll do it twice through because it's one verse. So remain seated. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. Storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing. Once more. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still we'll remain singing. my fears, quenching my tears through all the years, singing.
I invite the kids to join me in coming downstairs for our religious education classes.
Remember this old tune we sang before the pandemic. You'll see the words up there. Our time together is sacred, and now it's time to part. Though we'll miss being together, you're always right here in my
It's the first time I've gotten to be here with the kids in the sanctuary. Praise be. It's been a really weird 2 years, hasn't it? It just has. Had to be said. All right. So our first reading this morning was written in 2015, and yet it feels so incredibly relevant to today, at least to me. It's from an article titled "Why Science is So Hard to Believe" by Joel Achenbach, science reporter for the Washington Post. The science problem, as it's blandly called by the scientists who study it, has yielded abundant new research into how people decide what to believe, and why they so often don't accept the expert consensus. It's not that they can't grasp it, according to Dan Kahan of Yale University. In one study, he asked 1,540 Americans, a representative sample, to rate the threat of climate change on a scale of 0 to 10. Then he correlated that with subjects' science literacy. He found that higher literacy was associated with stronger views at both ends of the spectrum. Science literacy promoted polarization on climate, not consensus. According to Kahan, that's because people tend to use scientific knowledge to reinforce their worldviews. Americans fall into two basic camps, Kahan says. Those with a more egalitarian and communitarian mindset are generally suspicious of industry and apt to think it's up to something dangerous that calls for government regulation. They're likely to see the risks of climate change. In contrast, people with a hierarchical and individualistic mindset respect leaders of industry and don't like government interfering in their affairs. They're apt to reject warnings about climate change because they know what accepting them could lead to, some kind of tax or regulation to limit emissions. In the United States, climate change is a litmus test that identifies you as belonging with one or the other of these two antagonistic tribes. When we argue about it, Kahan says, we're actually arguing about who we are, what our crowd is. We're thinking, people like us believe this. People like that do not believe this. Science appeals to our rational brain, but our beliefs are motivated largely by emotion, and the biggest motivation is remaining tight with our peers. We're all in high school. We never left high school, says Marcia McNutt. People still have a need to fit in. And that need to fit in is so strong that local values and local opinions are always trumping science. And they will continue to trump science, especially when there is no clear downside to ignoring it. It's the end of our first reading. Our second reading was written by Reverend Pat Horderfer, who is the former president of the American Humanist Association. She writes, "Reason, While an indispensable part of our religious meaning-making is not omnicompetent, there are dimensions of the human predicament which it cannot fully probe: suffering, evil, death. It is a necessary but not sufficient condition for deep religion, which is rationality and feeling, will and spirit. There is a time for doubt. There is time for uncertainty. There is time for ambiguity. But preoccupation with them is not a very satisfying way to spend a life. There must also be a time for faith in the worthwhileness of life. There must be a time for decisive action, even in the face of uncertainty. There must be a time for empathic convictions, even in the face of ambiguity. Here ends the second reading. Okay, an engineer, a physicist, a mathematician, and a mystic were each asked to name the greatest invention of all time. The engineer chose fire because she felt it had given humanity power over matter. The physicist chose the wheel because he felt it had given humanity power over space. The mathematician chose the alphabet because she felt it had given humanity power over symbols. And the mystic? She chose the thermos bottle. Why a thermos bottle, the others asked. Because the thermos keeps hot liquids hot in winter and cold liquids cold in summer. The others looked perplexed. Yeah, so what? Think about it, said the mystic. That little bottle, how does it know? In all of the congregations I've served, I've met a lot of people who I imagine would identify with one of these four people. Maybe the way that you make meaning is built directly on reason, and you feel wonder about the discoveries made through science. Or perhaps your faith is born out of a personal experience, something or someone lost or gained an experience maybe you can't explain, a sense of deep connection to the earth and its rhythms. Or maybe the root of your belief is tradition, the wisdom of culture, sacred text, and practices, holidays and holy days passed down through the generations. I think for a lot of us, it's a mixture of all of these things and more. Historically, Unitarians first defended the use of reason as a way to understand the Bible, believe it or not. In those days, most theologians thought reason and logic were faulty, tainted by the sin of the fall of humanity. But William Ellery Channing argued against the conventional religious ideas of his time and taught instead that reason was a divine blessing given to humanity so that we could grow in our understanding of God, or as he said, in our likeness to God. Throughout the Enlightenment, Unitarians and Universalists broadened the use of reason. They came to understand it not as a barrier to the work of the soul, but as a tool to use in building the kingdom of heaven right here on earth. And what a tool it has been. From the assembly line to the vaccine, from neurosurgery, the 3D printer, to these handheld gadgets we have that can take pictures and billions of pieces of information in a few seconds and also make phone calls. Human ingenuity has enabled us to do so many amazing things. It's easy for me to see why so many people are excited about humanity's future potential, convinced that we just have to find the right tools and we can do anything, solve anything, save anything. Having been raised a Unitarian Universalist, I was taught about the power and importance of reason right from the start. I accepted my congregation's reverence of reason as a given. I grew up hearing sermons about the liberal religious trinity of freedom, reason, and tolerance. I was taught in Sunday school that the path toward the world we all dream about lies in better education. When humanity learns to think more critically, when everyone learns to be more discerning, when the world finally accepts reason, logic, facts as its guides, I was taught, humanity will have reached true enlightenment. And yet, there seems to be an awful lot of arguing about facts these days. For just about every issue, theory, or medicine, it seems like there's a person out there convinced that it's a conspiracy. I, for one, value a certain level of skepticism, asking questions, asking for a second or third opinion, asking experts to challenge their assumptions. These things help keep us safe. They help us learn new things. But it seems like more people these days consider themselves experts in areas where they may only have a deep interest, or the results of a basic Google search, or watching 5 minutes of Fox News. And in the last several years, we've seen this trend politicized to deadly effect. I am a great lover of science, a happy recipient of cutting-edge technology and medicine, and as my mother, a former chemist, puts it, better living through chemistry. But I must confess that I find it difficult to see reason as the chief answer to humanity's problems. Reason is not going to stop bombs from falling in Ukraine. The faith in reason that I was raised with, that defined liberal religion for generations, offers very little to explain or respond to humanity's continuing history of violence, racism, and greed. Whatever it is that drives human beings throughout history to harm one another, often against our own best interest, it's not something that's governed by our rational brains. Human beings, well-educated and uneducated alike, continue to exact unspeakable suffering and violence upon others. They often use reason and logic to make their methods of violence more effective, more efficient, more profitable. Perhaps the most terrifying thing about this for me is how anyone can witness humanity's evil and rationalize a way to call it good. Hatred and bigotry have always had their supporters, and they still do today. This is how reason, like all of the other aspects of faith, of meaning-making, has its limits. As the Reverend Pat Horderfer said in our second reading, reason is not itself sufficient for deep faith. Reason and logic are tools we can use to hew our faith, test our assumptions, and measure our standards. Just like personal experience, religious tradition, the wisdom gained from sacred texts and spiritual disciplines, reason is a tool that must balance and be balanced by the other aspects of deep religion. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. also put it well when he said, reason, devoid of the purifying power of faith, can never free itself of distortions. Where is the line between reason and rationalizing? Humanity has shown that it can and will use reason as a tool for harm. This is just one reason why UU leaders have been calling for our association to undertake work to balance our faith's reliance on reason by deepening our shared theology. As all manner of divisions are exploited for political gain in our world, more and more Unitarian Universalists are recognizing the need to better define what we do believe instead of what we don't, what holds us together rather than the ways we are ruggedly unique, individual, and untethered. Toward the end of its chapter on theology, the Widening the Circle of Concern report lists several takeaways that I want to share with you today. The chapter was all about our shared theology as Unitarian Universalists, and these were takeaways that they wanted congregations to think about and perhaps implement. Our faith traditions as Unitarians and Universalists require us to address equity, inclusion, and diversity issues. Faith and covenant are not dirty words. If freedom and individualism are our most important values, we have little to offer in these times. I'll let that one sit for a minute. These times require a liberatory faith that invites us each into the spiritual work of empathy and healing. Justice making is not a substitute for a coherent theology, and faithful justice making requires a liberatory theology. An articulation of what is commonly believed among us need not result in a creedal test for membership or involvement in our communities. Too many Unitarian Universalists do not know what saving and liberatory truths can be found within this faith tradition. Two more. We need to put greater emphasis on what it means to be bound to one another in an interdependent web and in keeping with our covenantal tradition. And finally, a greater emphasis on the theological basis for our work for diversity, equity, and inclusion will help us to make decisions about the forms of this work most appropriate for our individual and shared faith lives. Reason, logic, the things we learn through science, this way of making meaning is an important source in our liberal faith, but alone it is not enough. Like any source on its own, it can be twisted, manipulated, and used for harm. But when it's balanced with our other sources, like direct personal experience, words and deeds of prophetic people through history, wisdom from religions around the world, our Christian heritage, and the spiritual wisdom from earth-centered traditions, that is how we grow in strong and deep liberal faith, faith that changes and evolves as we do, faith that can stand up to all the world might throw at it. May it be so. May we make it so. Amen.
Could we give a hand to Phyllis? I'm just going to leave the razor right here. I'm not going to move it again, I promise. As you probably know, last week we began our ABD, our annual budget drive, a time in which we invite everyone who calls this congregation their own to make a financial pledge. After the offertory, Pat Scheid will share about why she pledges to UUCSS. In addition to the pledges we make for the yearly giving, we also have a weekly opportunity to make a financial offering. You can pay towards your pledge during the offering, and you can give in addition to your pledge. Either way, this congregation is possible not because we sell Sunday tickets for service or we charge for RE. It's possible because of the generation of every single one of you. And we thank you very much. As you can see on the screen, there are many ways that you can give a gift to UUCSS. If you are here in person, you can place your offering in the offering plate as it is passed around. The offering will now be given and received with gratitude.
What if the highest destination of any given human life was not a place that you could reach if you had to climb? Wasn't up above like heaven, so no need to fly at all. What if to reach the highest place you had to fall? Fall like a drunkard on your face, like a parachuter jumping from a plane. Fall like an astronaut from space, or an acrobat from making a mistake. And what if all the sages, talking about realms out of reach, would memorize the pages of gravity? What if getting to the highest places, like learning what you know? Oh, like going where you are now, like coming home, like coming home. Fall like Adam coming down from the strange unearthly angels whence he came. Fall, finding a way of trusting in the ground, as if the highest and the lowest places are all the same. What if the highest destination wasn't up above it all? Oh, what if to reach the highest place you had to fall? What if you had to fall? What if you had to fall?
Let's give it up for Ian. Welcome home. I am delighted to welcome to the pulpit Pat Scheid, who is a member of our annual budget drive committee. She is going to be talking a little bit about why she pledges to UUCSS and letting us know a little bit of an update on our pledge drive.
Good morning. So my name is Pat Scheid. I use she, her pronouns, and I am one of your ABD co-chairs. I'm going to tell you more about how you can give and also share a bit of my UUCSS story. As of last night, we have $118,000 There's a lot of eights in this number. $118,881 in pledges, which is almost exactly 25% of our goal. And more than half of the members who have pledged have increased their pledge this year. So thank you very much. Today I want you to remember three numbers. They are the numbers 3, 8, and 24. And if you think about it, there's a little math formula in there. So 3, because there are 3 ways that you can pledge. On the website by going to www.uucss.org, look for, at the top of the banner, 22 to 23 pledge here, and click on that and follow the instructions. You can also pledge by email by filling out the form that you receive in your inbox and email it to abd@uucss.org. Or you can send it by postal mail. Yes, we still accept checks and money by postal mail. Also, if you pledge by April 3rd, you will be entered into a contest for lunch on Kristin's screened-in porch. So next is the number 8, because we are asking those who are able to increase their pledge by 8%. And of course, you can do more, like 10%. It's a lot easier to calculate. That's what I did. And finally, the number 24, because on April 24th, we will celebrate the end of the ABD with an ice cream social on the grounds of UUCSS. Okay, now a bit about my story, my UUCSS story. Well, I'm actually surprised how many years I've been a member of UUCSS. The way I always remember the number is because it's the same as my son Dula's age. He's 35 years old. He grew up in this church, and he's now living in Oakland, California. 35 years. It's really hard for me to believe, and it also makes UUCSS one of my longest-term relationships. I have lots of memories in this community. Catoctin retreats, when Dula was just a toddler, and hunting lizards with Danny Paoletti and other young guys and gals and everything. Women's retreats, which are just an exceptional opportunity to bond with other women in this congregation. Auction dinners and outings, and of course, choir and music, always music. In 2013, I moved to California for 8 years where I visited other UU churches, but I never quite found the one. So I decided to hike on Sundays instead, where I found another sacred space. When COVID hit and I was living alone and working alone and doing a whole lot of stuff alone, a friend told me that UUCSS had started doing virtual services. Since I was already planning to return to Maryland, I thought it would be a wonderful way to reconnect with this beloved community. Those virtual services and the Zoom coffee hours really became a staple of my early Sunday mornings in California and helped me to make it through the COVID solitude. So fast forward to this year, and I have been supported by so many friends here as I struggled through caring for aging parents and my dad's death. UUCSS is where I do soul work, but I also sing, laugh, and cry here. Yes, a lot of crying here. That's what has kept me connected with this community for 35 years. And thank you for being here. And remember, we're all in this together.
Before we have our closing hymn, I did just want to share one really exciting piece of information update about our pledge drive. We have a number of people who've come forward and offered matching funds for people who increase their pledges. The total amount of matching funds that this congregation can unlock with increases in their pledges is $32,000. How awesome is that, right? So, if you haven't pledged yet, if you're thinking about making an increase, just remember, all of the amount of whatever increase you make over last year's pledge will be matched up to $32,000 for the whole congregation, which is just, it's absolutely breathtaking, the generosity of this congregation. So I get to be your minister. Let's rise and join in singing our closing hymn.
Tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred hearts and minds unite to build a church that shall be free, free from the bonds that bind the mind to narrow thought and lifeless greed, free from a social code that fails to serve the cause of human need, a freedom that revers the past but trusts the dawning future more, and bids the soul in search of truth adventure boldly and explore. Prophetic church, the future waits your liberating ministry. Go forward in the power of love, proclaim the truth that makes us free.
Please join us in the words of the chalice extinguishing. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
Our worship now has ended and our service begins, and we get to enjoy a wonderful postlude.
We have been weighed down by sadness like a stone, and we have yearned, and we have sometimes felt so utterly alone. While we turn, and we've been stricken by the wonder of it all. Stricken down. And we have sometimes felt so faint we want to fall. Overcome, but all in all, I I'd say this year in flight together has been fun. What say we make one more circle around the sun? We have raised our fist in anger and we've tried to work it out, that we need each other, we cannot deny. There is no doubt, there is no doubt. So let us weave another dream in outer space while we turn in, on this planet that we hold our human race. We still are learning, but all in all, I'd say this year in flight together has been fun. What say we make one more circle around the sun? I'd say this year in flight together has been a good, good one. What say we make one more circle? One more circle, one more circle round the sun, around the sun. Thank you, Ian Riggs. And happy spring. That was for the spring equinox.